everyone, this is Shelly, and today I have a video showing you how I do the white highlights that I add to some of my colored digis. It really adds kind of a pop of color and interest. You can add these types of highlights with pins. Unfortunately, I don't get the result that I like from the pins, so my poor pins sit in my pin drawer and they never get used. The product that I have found works best for me is the Copic Opaque White. It comes in a little jar like this, and I add it to my projects with a paintbrush. For the highlights that I'm going to do today, I really like the liner paintbrush. It has real long bristles on it that when you pull it through the paint kind of come to a nice fine point, and gives you almost like using a pen when you are adding them to your image. So I'm going to assume that my light source for this digi is coming from the upper left hand side, and I'm going to do kind of a curved dash along the upper left part of Peter's eye. Right in front of that, I'm going to do just a little dot of color, and then down in the lower kind of left hand side I'm going to do a reflection dot. And I think that you can see already that that really adds a lifelike characteristic to the digi and gives it a whole different lifelike feel. I'm also going to come down and add some highlights to the egg. Easter eggs are kind of nice and shiny and pretty, and so I'm going to add some of these fun highlights along the egg. As I said before, I'm assuming that the light source is coming from the upper left hand side, but when I was painting my egg I took a few artistic liberties and just really added some highlight to some spots that I thought looked the best for my project. So you don't have to be, you know, it's okay to break the rules a little bit and just make it look pretty and put the highlights where you think that they look best. And don't forget that it's also a nice effect to add just some little dots of white, kind of add some interest that way too. Another place that I really like to use this type of a technique are on our beach digi stamps. It's really nice to go in and add some of the white highlight to the water so it kind of looks like the sun is shining across the top of the water. Here I'm just going to show you just the before and after so that you can kind of see how that looks, and then an open picture of my project. Since we're doing a video, we're going to go ahead and show you just kind of a fast forward of how I colored Peter. Lots of little tips in here, so I hope you enjoy this fast forward part as well. Here's a rundown of the Copic colors. The browns here are used for coloring Peter. Here are the sky colors that I use. And lastly, the colors for the egg and the grass. And I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through the coloring of the Peter digi stamp here. I thought while we were doing a video, I would kind of show you just an overview of the coloring. This time when I colored Peter, I started out with the darkest colors that I chose, and I worked backwards. I do it both ways, and I don't know if there's a rhyme or reason to why I do it one way or another, but I just do whatever feels right, I guess, when I sit down and start coloring. As I've mentioned before, I'm not a Copic coloring expert. I just sit down and color and do what works for me, so that, you know, what I do may not work for you. I'm sure that a Copic instructor might look at how I color and you know, tell me I'm doing it way wrong, but this is what works for me when I color, and it's different every time. I think that that's the fun of it. Every time I sit down to color a digi, it's a little bit different. A little tip on the pink: when you add the pink in, if you want to tone it down a little bit, just go in and add some tan right over the top of it. For the eye, I just touched in the center with the darker black color, and then touch the dark brown around it. And in the grass, a little tip is to use one of the tan colors at the base of some of that grassy area to give it a little bit of a indication of like ground or dirt there. So I'm going to go ahead and color the egg, and you'll see that even for these kind of small areas, I generally do use a lighter and a darker of each color so that it still has some depth and some interest. So you'll see that as I go through coloring here. The next step that I'm going to show you, I think I actually go in here next and do a little bit more blending on the bunny himself. And then after that we go to the sky, and it kind of flies through here. So I'm going to go ahead and start kind of explaining what I do when I color a sky on a digi like this. I'm trying not to outline Peter here. I'm trying to do kind of horizontal lines out from him. And then I pick out areas that I want to leave white for cloudy areas. Around some of those, I go ahead and do it a little bit, put a little bit more blue around the cloud to give it a little bit of shadow. And then I use a whole lot of the blending, get the paper really wet with the colorless blender, and that's how I do my sky here. I hope you enjoyed our little tutorial today and found a few tips or techniques that will help you with your crafting projects. And I hope that you'll stop by and visit us at the blog. We always have a challenge or some kind of event going on, and we'd love to have you stop and visit us there.